Sean Diddy Combs verdict: not guilty on sex trafficking, racketeering, and guilty of lesser charges. Let's get into it.
Although Drika Duncan is outside the court, she's been following this case for all of those 7 weeks that it's been ongoing. Drika, good to see you. What's the mood? What are you hearing from where you are?
There are people yelling out a potential verdict, the result. We are not going to report that just yet. The last note that I got from Alice Gaynor, who is inside the courtroom, was at 10:15. The judge said, "All rise," and that the jury was being let in. Let's talk about the jury there for a moment. 8 men and 4 women, at least 5 people of color. This is a very diverse jury, and they have been listening to testimony for the last 8 weeks, 7 weeks of testimony, and obviously deliberating in this last week here, the 8th week. But they have heard from 34 witnesses, and 2 key witnesses that are part of this indictment, part of the charges, were Jane, a pseudonym that was used for an ex-girlfriend that he dated from 2021 to 2024, and Cassie Ventura, truly the star witness in all of this. She was with Combs for about 11 years. She said that she met him when she was 19 years old, was signed to his record label, but talked to the jurors and gave her testimony about being abused and saying that she did not want to partake in what Combs called freak-offs, where he would watch her have sex with escorts. She was on the stand for 4 days, and Jane was on the stand for 6 days. So the jurors got a lot of information. They saw videos of both women engaged in sex acts that were not available to the public. They saw images of Cassie, her bruised body, emails and text messages that the defense would say tell 2 different stories, and they maintained that there were 2 trials happening. Mark Agnifilo, the lead defense attorney, saying this was a modern-day love story, but the government begging to differ and say this isn't even about a love story. This is about a crime. We're just getting word not guilty on count 1, not guilty on count 2. Is that correct?
Guilty on count 3.
Guilty on count 3. Stay with me, Tony.
Not guilty on count 4.
Not guilty on count 4.
And guilty on count 5.
And guilty on count 5. This is just coming into us
So
right now. Could you repeat that for me,
charges,
Nia? She's our field producer. You said not guilty on count 1. That is the racketeering conspiracy. The second.
See, but I had a feeling they weren't gonna be able to get him on racketeering. I think that was a bit of a stretch as the charges and the proceedings was going on. Like, bro, that ain't gonna stick. I don't think that'll stick, and it ain't stick.
Not guilty. Not guilty on count 2. Is that correct? Not guilty.
Guilty on count 3.
Guilty on count 3. That would be the Mann Act transportation of Cassie Ventura. And if you could, looks like I have the note as well. So I'm just going to.
So I wonder how many years, if he get any years, for the Cassie transportation situation. I'm really curious about how many years are they going to give him.
I'm going to read it. Count 1, racketeering conspiracy, not guilty. Count 2, not guilty. Count 3, guilty. Count 4, not guilty. Count 5, guilty. So essentially, the jurors found that he was guilty of the Mann Act. That is the transportation to engage in prostitution, but they found him not guilty on sex trafficking, very serious charge there where he could have spent a minimum of 15 years in prison, and not guilty on that racketeering conspiracy, which he could have spent up to life in prison for. So that is the very latest.
That boy Diddy got off. Dang, he got off. That's crazy. No, I've heard a lot of people, especially on Twitter, everybody's like, man, you shouldn't go to jail for being a freak. Like, you know what? Y'all make some sense. But your boy, he's wilding, but they're like, hey, you shouldn't go to jail for being a freak. You know what I'm saying? Like, but being a deviant, especially if it's consensual and all that stuff with people of appropriate age. Hey, man, do you. Just leave me out of it.
Get more information as things are coming out in terms of the mood inside that courtroom. What is Sean Combs doing? What is his family?
So I really want to know
doing? What are the jurors doing? How are they reacting? All of that should be coming to us momentarily. But again, if you're just tuning in, Sean Combs not guilty on the most serious of charges.
It's a good graphic. Turn these captions off. Count 1, racketeering conspiracy, not guilty. Count 2, sex trafficking, not guilty. Transportation and engagement in prostitution, guilty. Sex trafficking. So which one was this fourth count? Who was against sex trafficking then? Not guilty. I want to know what the time is. Oh, they're probably gonna discuss that later, but yeah.
Charges, the racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking.
All right, Drika, thank you very much. With us also is criminal defense attorney Caroline Polisi, a CBS News legal contributor. Caroline, this is a mixed result, and we do have a bit of color from the courtroom from our Alice Gaynor. Combs, just before the verdict was read, walked in, said something to his family, and then put his glasses on. If you could, please put yourself in the position of this defense team and Mr. Combs. How would they be feeling here with two guilties? And I should mention they carry potential sentences of 0 to 10 years. So he could be facing criminal prison time at this point. Put me into their mindset right now. How are they feeling about this result?
So he got 2 counts of 0 to 10 years. They probably gonna get his man like 3 to 6 years, probably, most likely.
They are high-fiving each other. This is a huge win for the defense. These transportation to engage in prostitution.
Plus, for somebody like Diddy, going to jail ain't really a bad thing. He gonna have all kind of freak offs in there, so it ain't really a bad thing for somebody like Diddy who gonna get it however he want to get it.
Prostitution counts, Mann Act counts don't have a mandatory minimum. Given his prior history, he doesn't have any prior convictions. He could get away with time served, even a couple of years. I mean, this is one of the best possible outcomes that they could have hoped for. You know, the sex trafficking and the RICO conspiracy, that means the...
You know, the crazy part is I don't even know how to really feel about this, because I never really thought, like I say, yes, he probably took advantage of that girl over time, but at some point in time, Cassie was, you know, consenting to that stuff, man. So, so I don't think she was completely innocent, and I don't think he was as bad as, he was. Never mind, he was as bad, but like people have said, man, should you go to jail for being a freak? And I mean, hurt nobody, you know what I'm saying? But prostitution thing. Like I said, I ain't really keep up with the trial like that. I don't really care. But I saw the verdict. I said, I'm gonna check it out.
The jury was buying what the defense was selling in terms of this overarching theme that this was not coercion for sex, that these two women, Cassie and the woman with the pseudonym Jane, that they entered into these relationships knowingly, that they made a cost-benefit analysis to engage in these acts, and that there really wasn't coercion, whether that was in the form of financial harm. Remember, we heard about him sort of hanging over Jane's head that he paid her rent, or whether that was, I mean, we all saw that 2016 Intercontinental Hotel video of him beating Cassie, apparently, in the midst of a freak-off. So even that wasn't enough for the jurors to overcome that hurdle. I think this is a huge deal. The prosecution had been sort of critiqued for maybe overcharging this case. I think it shows that it was.
They most definitely overcharged him. And when you don't charge people correctly, they get off on stuff, which probably was the intended purpose. So.
And the fact that they came back quickly after that modified Allen charge that was administered yesterday with that not guilty on the RICO charge shows you how quickly they got there. So huge win for the defense.
Caroline, thank you very much. I want to bring in Jessica Levinson, also a CBS News legal contributor and a Loyola Law School professor. Her work focuses on constitutional law, election law, and the Supreme Court. She's one of our best analysts. Jessica, how are you feeling about this result? We just heard about potential high fives from Caroline's perspective. How would you feel about this result if you were sitting in the Diddy camp right now?
Exactly the same as Caroline would. Excellent analysis as always. This is a big win for the defense. It shows that the prosecution was able to get guilty on the most straightforward of the cases, of the counts. But when it comes to those more complicated counts that we've all had the opportunity to talk about now for months, whether or not Sean Combs really had created this criminal enterprise, whether or not the freak-offs cross that line from maybe morally questionable or seriously questionable to illegal. I think that's where things broke down for the prosecution. It shows that these are complicated cases to bring, that not every federal case that's brought is a slam dunk winner. And certainly, I think there will be kind of Monday morning quarterbacking of, should this have been charged differently? I think they presented all the facts they could have, but moving this from there was immoral, unethical behavior to this was a criminal enterprise to the tune of a racketeering charge, that's a really high hill to climb. And we're seeing that this morning.
Jessica, the public is going to be very interested in whether this very famous man goes to prison or not. The two guilty verdicts carry potential punishments of up to 10 years. But as Caroline pointed out, they also have no mandatory minimum. It could be 0 years. Do we have any sense that this...
Hey, Diddy about to agree. He about to get that judge $50 million. Hey, man, take the $50 million, put them zeros on there, and go about your day, brother.
Early date of where in the range of things he could fall?
So we're going to look, the prosecution and the defense will both submit sentencing memorandum. They will make their argument to the judge. The judge will have discretion to say, I think X is appropriate. I clerked for a federal judge, and he used to tell me, when we went back, he said, it's within my discretion. If I want to give a big bear hug and say, no, go be a good citizen, I can do so. I don't think we're going to see that in this case, but I think some prison time could absolutely be on the table, again, given everything that we've heard in this case.
All right, Jessica, thank you very much. Let's go back to Jerika Duncan outside the courthouse. Been following this from the very beginning, and she's with Elaine Quijano, who we're going to talk to in a moment. But Jerika, what are you hearing outside the courthouse? It's been kind of a circus out there. People have a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
What's the scene like now?
Right now, people are yelling. There are quite a few Combs supporters that have been outside, a lot of content creators. But I'm hearing from Alice Gaynor inside the courtroom that Combs, quote, pumped his fist at one point and he put his head up to the sky with prayer hands. So that is his reaction moments after hearing that mixed verdict. Also something to note, the Southern District of New York has a, I believe, 99% conviction rate. So for this to happen, a big win really for Combs in terms of the best possible outcome. But now we find out if the federal courts will continue prosecuting him on those charges, those counts that he was found not guilty for. But Elaine Quijano, you were in the overflow room where you can see the reaction from family. I know it was very tense in there. Describe what was going on.
So just to give our viewers a sense, basically where we were was a couple of floors down from the actual courtroom itself, as you know. And what you see there are windows into that courtroom. So you have a camera that is not quite a head-on, but it does give you the perspective of what it looks like from sort of the front of the room.
Right.
So
when
you
I was
could
sitting
see
in
him.
the courtroom, you see the profile and you're in the back.
So
but you're seeing Combs, you're seeing the attorneys, you can't see the jurors, of course.
Right.
But you can see the family who are usually in the second row.
That's right. So what we saw, it was interesting. I'll just sort of set the scene. As the jurors were coming in, it was interesting to watch. Sean Combs, before the jurors were brought in, was seated at the defense table, as you said, a couple of rows up from where his family was. But he appeared to be looking through a notebook. He had reading glasses on, I noticed, and he was intently staring at either a book or notebook, flipping through it in his lap. Then, when the jurors were brought into the room, he immediately turned, looked at them, and when the verdict came, that very first count of not guilty, he put his hand to his head, his right hand, just like this, and clearly seemed to be relieved. At that point, we also watched as the other counts were read, and at one point...
I mean, that's... This play-by-play right now is like obvious. Oh my God, of course I'm relieved, but I ain't going to jail for 30 years. Like, come on, what? What the fuck, man?
We could see him squeezing the hands of his defense attorneys. The defense attorneys had their arms around each other, sort of side-hugging each other. And then we watched as Sean Combs turned towards that row where his family was sitting and did a prayer hand gesture like this and turned back towards the front of the room.
All right, so that's the Diddy trial, man. He got off, or however you want to phrase it. He's not guilty. He's guilty of 2 charges, not guilty for 3. That's a W. I'm pretty sure in the Diddy camp. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below.